That's right. Time for our drive chat here on Joy 99.7 FM, and it's proudly brought to you by MTN. Everywhere you go, Access Bank, more than banking, Avis Rent a Car, Bell Beverages, refreshing the nation, and Das PLC. Our doctor is in the house. Dr. Al Safo, CEO of Medicas Hospital, Mampo Equiapim, and Medina Firestone is here. Hi, Doc.
Hi, Kwame.
How are you?
I'm good. After the weekend of fun.
Yes, absolutely.
It
guys,
was our weekend.
Before you even continue, guys. You people who have been saying me, I don't know how to dance. Like, have you seen Dr. Safo dance? Guys, go to my Instagram page right now.
Stop.
Last
What's
was
Instagram page?
Father's Day. Father's Day. Fathers who don't know how to dance met, and I taught them a thing or two. You understand? But you should see Dr. Safo.
The disease is infectious. I have worked with you. I've been working with you for a long time. Just
I mean, Mama say, oh.
Well, I've got a lot of comments after I was asking people, where did you see me dancing? They said, oh, it's on Instagram.
Yes.
I said, whose Instagram?
Yes. I mean, guys, in the video, he's wearing the red shirt. Look for anybody in red in that video. It is him. No, but and you people, I don't understand why you people even bash me that I don't know how to dance. Like, are you serious?
Everybody knows the source of the problem. There's an epicenter.
I mean, you are a revelation. You are a revelation. If I was proud of myself that day, I was like, oh, Kwame, you are not alone.
It was a great event. It was
absolutely, and thank you so much as well for coming. Yeah.
I think they should do more of it. Every year. Next year it should be bigger.
Next year, the real daddies hang out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure they would consider it so that we can have another time to party and all of that. But anyway, I hope you've had a good week, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. We had our second session week of the spine clinic at Medina branch.
Okay.
It was good. Doctor is still around for one more week.
Oh, I see.
So we hope to see a lot more people at the spine clinic outreach.
And is it happening in Medina?
Medina Firestone branch.
Okay, that's good.
Right.
All right. But today we have a very delicate issue from a 61-year-old friend of ours.
Okay, let's hear it.
Lexis, I'm 61 years, recently retired after 35 years on the job. I've worked in the corporate sector and also in education. I always imagined my retirement as a quiet period on my village farm, rearing animals and drinking fresh palm wine. Hey, Olu. Unfortunately, I've noticed something that has got me spooked a little bit. I found bright red blood in my stools and toilet paper barely 10 days ago. It happened 3 days in a row and stopped. I recall experiencing constipation and some diarrhea a few months back. Otherwise, I've been fine. I went online to do some reading on what can be wrong. Lexis, all I'm seeing is tumor. And I'm very concerned. I've booked an appointment in Accra for next month. But before then, can you get the drive doctor to shed more light on what could be wrong?
Right. So, 61-year-old male who was hoping to be drinking and enjoying fresh palmy.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's having to make a U-turn back to Accra. Well, let's see whether we can help him go back and go and enjoy that fresh palmy.
Okay.
Again. So, Kwame, I think he asked a question. Could this be cancer? Because he's noticed bright red bleeding or bright red blood in his stools. Or we're going to take the opportunity to then discuss tumors or cancers that affect the large intestine. So, Kwame, a little bit of biology. So we have what we call the digestive tract.
Yeah.
You remember the digestive tract?
It has a small intestine. It starts from the esophagus, right?
Esophagus, right.
Then down into
the stomach.
The stomach.
Then we'll go into the small intestine.
And then the large intestine.
But coming out, the small intestine has 3 parts.
Does it?
Right, we just for the sake of our listeners,
okay,
we'll skip the different parts. There are three segments of the small intestine.
Oh no, tell us. I'm curious.
Well,
Because I remember I was in class that day, so I'm
you were in
surprised I
class
missed
day.
that one.
Okay. I'm sure you were not MC. So there's the first part, which is the duodenum. Then there's the second part, which is the jejunum. And then there's a third part, which is the ileum.
That we made that guy. Do the one you know, but we do the one no.
Right. Then from the small intestine, you go to the large intestine.
Okay.
And then there is the ascending part of the large intestine, there's the transverse part, then there's the descending part, and then there's the S-shaped part, which is called the sigmoid, and then you have the rectum, which is the storehouse of fecal matter, and then you have the anus, and then we poop. So today the focus is going to be on those diseases, the tumors, the abnormal growths that can happen in the large intestine, the colon. So the large intestine is called the colon. Right, so if you hear me using the word colon, we're talking about the large intestine. Kwame, seeing bright red blood in your stools is a no-no. It's literally a red flag. So it's one of those things that I always encourage everybody to do. Look at your poop or look at the toilet paper after you've used it, because it is an early warning system. Look, it's your own poop, so you look at it. Try.
Ew.
Yes, I'm hearing a lot of ews. But please, it's an early warning system. We physicians and the other healthcare professionals, we have to look at other people's poop. So if it's your own poop, you should be able to look at it. It's an early warning system. So he's seen that and he's concerned. So that's the first thing. It's a good spot and we will therefore have to look into it. There are benign causes why you would have that bright red blood. And there are also much more serious causes or malignant causes. When we talk about benign causes, then we mean that it is not cancerous. And some of the common reasons may be that the individual has piles, hemorrhoids, as we would call it. And these can bleed, and it has nothing to do with a tumor or a growth, an abnormal growth in there. And you can have other benign conditions, but unfortunately too, it can be one of the early warning signs that you have cancer of the large intestine. So until we investigate it further, we wouldn't know, and therefore it is very, very important for everybody who notices that not to assume that it is piles. Piles is very common, so that's the assumption everybody makes. So Kwame, today the focus is going to be on colorectal cancer. A couple of weeks back was the World Digestive Health Day. So we've just talked about the digestive tract. So there's a discipline called gastroenterology where we study, the focus mainly is on the digestive tract and various medical conditions or diseases that affect the digestive tract. And Kwame, the slogan for the year is 45 is the new 50. 45 is the new 50.
Okay.
So many years ago, we came out with the decision that at age 50, you should start, whether you're male or female, you should start to screen for colorectal cancer. Cancer that affects the large intestines, the colon, and the rectum.
That was supposed to be at age 50.
At age 50. Now, because of advances in medicine and new knowledge, we're saying that screening ought to start at 45 years. So Kwame, let me share with you a few facts that we know as well. It is usually cancer that is seen in individuals age 55 years and over.
Okay.
So you typically don't see it in young people. So say middle-aged to elderly individuals. In our part of the world, a lot of them would be above 60, most parts of the world, but I would say 55 and above. However, there's a new trend which is very worrisome now. The 20 to 39 age group, we're beginning to see increasing incidence rates in that age group, the 20 to 39 age group, and that is worrying. Obesity, carrying too much fat than you are allowed, has been fingered or has been pointed out as the reason why we're seeing this increasing incidence rate in that younger age group. but overwhelmingly it's 55 and above. So our friend who sent the message is 61 years. Well, in terms of men and women, there are no differences in terms of the incidents. Almost equal numbers in men and women. So there are no gender differences in terms of the incidence of this. However, people of African origin tend to have a higher incidence than people of other ethnicities or races. So there was one study that found that in men of African origin, there was a 24% increase incidence, and in females, there was a 19% increased incidence in people of African origin. So we ought to be a lot more concerned. It is also the third commonest cancer in both men and women. So for men, usually you would have lung cancer and stomach cancer, or probably not part of the prostate cancer, being 1 and 2, and then number 3, then you have the colorectal cancers. Then in women, it's breast, cervix, and then you have the colorectal cancer. So it is something that we see often. But why are we seeing more of it now in our environment? I was telling Philip before we came on air that, at independence, our average life expectancy was 48 years in 1957 in this country. So if you take a disease, means averagely, you have people growing to be 70 and 80. But the average life expectancy at independence was around 48 years. Now it's around 62 years. So if there is a disease condition that you typically would find in the 60 plus year group, then if you have an average life expectancy of 48, then probably you wouldn't see a lot of people with that condition. But now that our average life expectancy has climbed up from 48 to about 62 years, then it is likely that you would find a lot more people developing it.
Okay.
So it is not as if maybe it is a new phenomenon, but this is typically found in that age group. Right. Well, now let's look at, I'm sure people are asking, so what are the causes? What can cause me to develop cancer of the colon and the rectum? Well, in terms of the exact cause, we still don't know. We can't put a finger on it. But what we know happens is that there are distortions to your DNA, your genetic material, the code that you carry. So cellular DNA mutations. What causes those mutations, we're not entirely sure about that. But I'm sure with all of the studies being done and with the scientific know-how and new technologies, we'll be able to put our finger on it in the next couple of years. But there are some known risk factors, Kwame, which I want to share with you and with our listeners. The first risk factor is old age, or an older age, I should say, an older age. And I did mention that the risk goes up significantly the moment you hit 55 years. And that is why we have dropped the age of investigation, getting your first colonoscopy, from 50 to 45. So 45 is the new 50. So as you grow older, then the risk is higher.
Okay.
So if he's listening, because he's 61, then he falls into that age bracket.
Yeah.
Another risk factor is your ethnicity being African. So if you are African or you're a person of African origin, then you have an increased risk compared to other people. The third is a family history of colorectal cancer, or something we call polyps. Polyps are clusters of cells that form in your intestine. They have these fleshy balloon-like structures that will develop on the insides of your intestine. They're usually benign, but sometimes they can transform from their benign state into a cancerous lesion. So anybody who maybe we scope you initially and we find polyps, then you are somebody that we should follow up closely on. There is also a family history. Again, we come back to that, which I always say. We should all make that genuine attempt at knowing our family history. More often than not, you would ask people, what happened to your grandfather? Oh, he got sick and then he died. he got sick and then he died. We need to know if there's a family history of colon cancer, then you are more likely to develop it. And the closer the family member is to you, then the higher your risk. So if you got first degree relative, mother, father, any of your siblings, all right, then the risk is higher than my mother's aunties, something. The farther away it goes, then the lower your risk. Another risk factor is a diet that is low in fiber but high in fat. Low fiber, high fat diet. And that is where the link mostly to obesity is. And that is why we're seeing that trend where younger people, 20 to 39 age group, we're getting to see a lot more of them, with this. So we really should look at the diet. And we will call this a typical Western diet. Low fiber, high fat diet. So research is still, there are some studies that show that, well, that's what the picture, that's what it says. Others are, inconclusive. But I did mention it when we discussed hypertension. Again, let's get a lot more fruits and vegetables in our diet, and let's cut down on the fat. And you get a lot of these fat from meat and a lot of processed foods. Another factor, risk factor, is a sedentary lifestyle. If you have to sit all the time with very little physical activity, that increases your risk. So people who are inactive are more likely to develop colon cancer. And again, when they develop colon cancer, we've realized that those who are less active don't respond well to treatment than those who have they had an active lifestyle.
Yeah.
Another risk factor is diabetes. People who have or been diagnosed with diabetes have an increased risk of colon cancer. So if you are diabetic, it's one of those things that your family physician will be taking or keeping a close eye on. Another risk factor is obesity, and I think I mentioned that already. So today, if you're listening, just take the tip and check your abdominal circumference. If you're at the level of the belly button, if you're a female and that is above 36 inches, you're obese. If you're a male and it's above 38 inches, anywhere in this world, you are obese. The Americans like 40 inches because generally they are larger size, but the rest of the world would say 38 inches for the men. Smoking. People who smoke may have an increased risk of colon cancer. So cigarette smoking, again, it is one of those cancers that you're most likely to develop. Heavy use of alcohol increases your risk of colon cancer. And Kwame, the word is heavy. You see, the heavy use of alcohol, the binge drinking. Unfortunately, I'm beginning to see way too much of that, especially on the hill, on weekends. You see a young men on registered vehicles, they will park at the Peduasi Shell, and then they set up their drinks on the boots of the car, and then, they're going at it.
That's a new style, eh?
That's a new style.
On the boot of the car.
Yes, that's what they set up the drink.
Wow.
I don't know where they are traveling to. But yeah, so heavy use of alcohol increases your risk of colon cancer. And unfortunately, some people are exposed to radiation. People who work in the X-ray units and you are not well protected, or you work in an institution where they use X-rays in a facility, then that is also a risk. So, Kwame, these are some of the risk factors that I wanted to discuss.
What are some of the symptoms, though?
Right. So, the first thing is what our friend sent to us: bright red bleeding in your stools. So that is a no-no. You should not have that. If you ever find bright red blood in your stools, particularly if you are in that age group, 55 and above, please don't assume it is piles and therefore you are going to look for piles medicine. Go and see your doctor. Number 2, a persistent change in your bowel habits. A persistent change in your bowel habits. So, Kwame, after a while, we all know how we move our bowels. Everybody has a bowel habit. So you should know. I think when I went to boarding school, pre-sec, Charlie, go with your doma. You don't want to go there.
You keep it for 1 week.
People keep it, you know. So that's altered our bowel habits. But I think every adult know their bowel habits. So if you ever notice that you're developing constipation on a regular basis, or diarrhea when you haven't changed your food you eat at home all the time and not from the roadside where you think that you've picked up something, and you are getting, say, alternating constipation with diarrhea and then having your regular stools, then you should think about colorectal cancer. That's what we mean by a persistent change in your bowel habits. Number 3, persistent abdominal discomfort, either cramps or gas. Of course, there are dietary causes of gas. So we all know about beans. If you eat a lot of beans, then most people tend to get a lot of gas.
With kosia.
Then
And couscous.
And what?
Couscous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the milk powder?
Yeah.
First of all.
Eh.
And you need to.
Me. Near chichiro no.
Aha.
There will be 80. Say a nido nisa. Near to be a share.
Yeah, to be a share go.
Na ye the ensako eco TV near.
Yes. So if you are lactose intolerance, for example, then you would get a lot of gas as well when you eat any dairy product. So we're not talking about that. If you usually don't have gas as from dietary causes, but all of a sudden you begin to notice that you feel bloated and you're getting a lot of flatulence, then you may want to, talk to your doctor about it. And then number 4, a feeling that you didn't completely empty your bowel, even when you've been in the loo for 30 minutes. But you leave with a feeling that your bowel didn't quite empty.
Yeah.
Then again, and if that's persistent, then you should also think about that. Then fatigue and weakness.
But wait, are we supposed to empty everything at one go?
But Kwame, how many times do you want to go in a day?
No, because sometimes you feel you've done, but you go again. There's more.
Kwame, the brand new hell. No, so everybody. I mean, you unless maybe there's some you are in a queue and you didn't finish.
No, because sometimes 30 minutes, 1 hour.
Reading the graphic.
You read things and things, but still. Anyway, moving on.
Right, and then unexplained weight loss.
Okay.
Unexplained weight loss. So sometimes there's a deliberate attempt to lose weight. We have deliberate attempt to lose weight, but if you're losing weight and there is no reason, you cannot put a finger to why you are losing the weight, then we'll call it unexplained weight loss. And then lastly, fatigue. So your usual exercise tolerance. You can mop the whole house, you can work in the backyard garden, but then you realize that these days you mop the bedroom, the bathroom is cleaned, and then you really feel tired. Then we will talk about fatigue on minimal exertion. These are signs and symptoms that you may have colon cancer, and therefore you should talk to your physician. Kwame, I'd say that many people with colon cancer experience no symptoms because of where it is. So if you are 45 and you are above, please, it will be the first time to check. We will not finish this conversation, so next week we will delve into what to do if you have any of these things and some of the preventative and screening measures that are available.
But this requires a colonoscopy.
Right. Mostly it will require a colonoscopy. So this is a visualization of the large bowel. With
it's very uncomfortable.
I mean, these days there are people who they say we should pass some law to allow certain things. So some people, it's very comfortable for them. Say they are used to things going up. Come here, you want us to say this? The LGAJKLZT. So
you blast. You blast the whole Ghana.
So it's not comfortable for everybody.
Anyway, I hear you.
But next week we will talk more about the procedure for colonoscopy.
Okay, all right, sure. That's really fine. Lexis, Doctors and dietitians always say eat more fruits and vegetables. With the vegetables, it's easy to draw up an affordable list. Ask doctor to give us practical examples of the vegetables and sample meals we can make. Most of us think lettuce, cabbage, carrots when vegetables are mentioned, and that's a very boring diet. What exactly can we eat?
Ademe. They use it for the, me, I like this thing, okra stew with the bangu. So the okra stew, there's a lot, everything is in there. There's the okra, you put some garden eggs in there. There's what? Everything is in there. It's a mix of vegetables in there.
I think we need to get Yaira to come back.
We need to get Yaira to
so
come in there. Then
she can help us with meals that are not boring.
Yeah. So there are a lot of vegetables. They're not necessarily expensive. I mean, there are vegetables that are the foreign type vegetables, but then we have our own local vegetables that you can grow in your backyard.
Yeah,
lots of them.
Lexis, I'm Alex. If I drink coffee and Milo, I see blood in my stool. Ask doctor, why is it so?
Wow, I don't think it is the coffee and the Milo. It's just coincidence. So he has blood in his stools, but I don't think it is because of the Milo and then it's because of the coffee. So he needs to be thoroughly examined. We need to take a thorough history. We need to do a very thorough physical examination.
Well, Nadinso is asking, when I constipate and force myself to poop, I see blood on the paper and in my anus.
How old is that?
And my anus gets sore.
Right.
Is it normal?
No, it's not normal. Definitely not normal. So again, that red flag is that you're not supposed to see blood coming from that part. So it is not normal. She may have piles. She may have diverticular disease. There may be so many other benign conditions, but it could also be a much more sinister diagnosis such as cancer. So just come and let us check it out.
So it could be piles, it could be not.
Yes.
Piles is the cocoa.
Cocoa.
Okay.
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 That's how we do it.